Folks, we back again, another Tuesday. We back at it, creative financing with JV. I got the master plan this week. Do y'all understand what's going to happen here? We're about to change some folks' lives. We're about to educate, orchestrate, give them everything they need to know on this thing. I got my man, Mr. AV Poston. He gonna show it up for all y'all that been spending money worthlessly, out there not knowing how to save, wondering how your retirements is. Oh, I forgot. Oh man, you don't have any insurance yet. And you know, we all got to leave this world one day. All this stuff we're gonna jam pack in here. It's a lot, so I'm gonna let y'all know. We're gonna have his number, his email come across that line. You probably gonna have to hit him up because we ain't gonna be able to touch everything tonight, and you're gonna have to probably set up that private consultation with him. But we're gonna talk about these things because these are real life issues. These are real things happening today. Our economy is calling for so much change, and for many years we've been doing stuff just fly by night. You know, it's just been happening. It's just been going on, and we just been taking it up, and the economy's been so good, so we can pick up from the mistakes in there. Our jobs, we had a lot more jobs here. You know, people might say they was useless jobs and everything. But we're going to talk about that financial planning, financial education, planning for your future. But we're going to start off and let Mr. A.V. Poston give us a little background about himself in his financial world. And then we're going to start jumping into it.
Okay. All right. I'm ready to go. So, hey, look. Listen, I am A.V. Poston. I have been in the financial world maybe since 1975. Graduated from Johnson C. Smith University in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been in the corporate sector working as a CFO, controllers, probably for the last 40, 45 years. Right now, I'm in the financial services industry, working for Primerica. And I'm here today to speak to anybody that's listening about making sure that they have built a financial house and that they have a stable financial house and that they understand the impact and the importance of life insurance, why life insurance, how to find out if you have enough life insurance, and to be a resource to you in the future. If you find what I'm offering credible, I would love to be your resource in the future. So I'll start with that, Johnny. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. So that's wonderful. You heard what it is, the financial aspect. And A.V., tell us, you know, that's funny you said a college of down in Charlotte. My cousin BB, Jeanette Robinson, went to the same college as A.V. So yeah, that's funny. But just want to talk about it and touch on a little bit about financial wealth. I mean, how did you get started in this game here? I mean, what made you really dig into this?
Well, I was in a position where I was recruited to this type of industry. And the thing that struck me about this type of industry was the opportunity to help people and to help families that are not a part of Main Street America, to help people from the middle income sector to the lower class people, because everybody deserves a shot to win in the game. And I thought I could make a difference in helping everybody win and win big. The reason that people struggle financially is that in high school or in college, there is no place for you to get a proper education on personal financing. Your paycheck does not come with a set of instructions. If people are out there trying to deal with a paycheck based upon what they think is right versus what they think are wrong. In the middle income market and the lower markets, people have a tendency to buy whatever they need, pay whatever's left with debts, and that normally takes care of paycheck to paycheck. However, on the upper end of the market, people learn to pay themselves first, and then to stay out of debt, and to make acquisition of goods based upon what will be relevant to their situation. And that's the education game that I want to bring to people, and I think is relative and important to people.
And if you had to look at that, A.V., you know, seeing you got many years of in this financial industry and understanding it, what is one of the main questions folks probably ask you trying to get stabilized in this financial game?
Well, you asked that question, and it's kind of a difficult. It's not a difficult question. I'll try to give you a straightforward answer. Most people will tell you in the financial world, if I meet a new prospective customer, that they're okay. And
Mm,
what I found is that if you go deeper into the conversation with a person, if they'll allow you to go deeper into the conversation, they might just be simply embarrassed and don't want to get themselves exposed, so they don't give themselves a chance to be rehabilitated and to move forward because they don't ever really want to admit that. Many
mm,
people in the world of life insurance have acquired the wrong type of life insurance. And
mm,
and when I talk about acquiring the wrong type of life insurance, I'm talking about people who have um, insurance, that whole life insurance. It's
mm,
expensive,
mm,
and it ultimately leaves that particular person underinsured because
mm,
there's no calculation based upon what it would take, what they really needed. And if they had to get what they really needed, they probably couldn't afford it because his whole life. And they're paying for insurance until they die, essentially. Some
mm,
policies last up to age 80, most go to 100, but most go to 120 years, which means you can be a senior. Nobody lives to be 120 years old, by the way. But you could be paying for insurance at 90 years old, paying somebody $80 a month, when ideally you should have come to a position in life in your later years where you are self-sufficient and you don't need insurance because you've worked on the investment side and you've been able to put yourself in a position that you can leave your family a legacy at your death.
mm. And we talking about that insurance. So, Av, we talking about that insurance. I mean, how long should we get insurance? I mean, should insurance be long term or is it a short term investment? What's the rules on that?
Well, to be clear, when we talk about insurance, we're talking about my company, Primerica. We're talking about term insurance, and we're
Hmm.
talking about term insurance depending upon where a person is at that stage in life. We believe that insurance is something that should be acquired at a younger age. Somebody in the age of 25 to 55 or even older can get insurance, but we believe it should be term. And when we say it should be term insurance, when I say whole life insurance, I'll give you just an example.
Okay.
You could have a couple could buy $200,000 each of whole life insurance, and they would be paying approximately, and this is an estimate, $300 a month.
Hmm.
We could supply them with term life insurance at say $400,000 each, and the payments would be $150. What we would work with them is don't spend that difference, invest that difference using the power of compound interest. We believe at the time that person became 65 or at the end of a 30-year term, they might have something in the neighborhood of 500 to 700K based upon their investment strategy, whether they wanted to be conservative or whether they wanted to be aggressive in the marketplace. We believe that that would give them the opportunity to leave a legacy, and no family member would be upset by getting a paycheck of that nature.
Wow, wow. So that makes a lot of sense, and to have that life insurance, and we should start young, as you heard him, Av saying, start young and start to do it. But tell us a little bit. We might have fast forward. Tell us a little bit why Prime America. For I mean, what makes them like the industry leader? You want to say?
Okay, if someone we are recognized by all the leading firms in the nation as being the number one uh, most integral life insurance company in the U.S.
Hmm.
Primerica always does the right thing. We have the credibility. We're listed by Forbes. Our owners include people like Lincoln Financial,
Hmm.
people like Invesco. All the big people are heavily invested in Primerica. Primerica is a company that is really a distributor of financial services. It
Hmm.
only produces one product, and that is life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
but it is a major partner with, for example, Rocket Mortgage out of Detroit. And we have agents who become licensed mortgage broker licenses. We have agents who work with a product that we call PPPL. These type products are products that provide people with prepaid legal services and enables them to have access to attorney, get a will, and to be able to function just as anyone would in Main Street. And we provide the investment side, working with people like Lincoln Financial and all the big companies across the country. And we have, for example, rates that there's no guarantee in terms of rates, but we have rates that have averaged consistently 9% return, some as much as a 12% return. And if you go to one that provides a fixed rate, that would mean that if the market did better than the fixed rate, you would only get what you signed up for. If the market did less, then you would be okay at the rate that you signed up for. But we think Primerica is the best. We don't advertise. And the reason we don't advertise is we believe that we need to be up close and personal with people, and we need to understand people and their needs. And like our competition might spend as much as $8 million a year in terms of advertising. We don't do that.
And that's good. I believe direct contact is the best solution to that. And folks, as you see it, it's avposting@gmail.com. Reach out to him for that. And we're talking about life insurance. We've seen, what happened during COVID. A lot of deaths and people pass away from this during this time, and several of them might not even had life insurance to it that they considered because they didn't think they'll be affected in any way. Av, so with this life insurance, I mean, what other options do I have for it? Is it just for preparing for my transition, or can I invest with it, or what else can I do?
Okay, I just want to go back to a point you made about COVID first.
Mm-hmm.
Primerica was the only life insurance company that paid out during COVID.
Oh wow.
And Primerica also paid out during the thing in New York where the disaster occurred.
Yeah,
Many life insurance companies did not pay out at that time. But you were asking me about competition, maybe, and what goes into life insurance. Is that the question?
Yeah, the question is, we know that we'll have it for our death benefit. What else is it only used for that? Is there other options we have?
Well, you remember me talking earlier about most families are underinsured and underprotected.
Mm-hmm.
We have a concept and a formula that we go through to determine what a person needs in terms of life insurance. We describe that as a DIME, DIME. The D stands for what debt does a person have outstanding. The I stands for income. Income, we believe a family should be protected for 10 times its current income. The M stands for mortgage, and the E stands for education for your children. So based upon that concept of understanding a person's dime, we believe that should equate to the amount of life insurance that they would need. And in the term of life insurance, we operate under two concepts. In your earlier years, say if a person is in the age range of, say, 25 to 35 years, that particular person would need a lot of life insurance. In effect, that person would be borrowing money in a way to protect against an early death. And because they would have kids who are young, kids who have to go through education, a house to pay for. But in your later years, you might not need a lot of life insurance because hopefully the house is paid off, kids have moved out, and your needs have drastically changed. So we operate on the term is to try to time that term to a person's, desire, but somewhere timing it to end at age 65 or age 70, depending on what a person wants. And we work to get them to where they can retire life insurance and live off the investments. We work with them on an investment strategy to compensate for what they might need in their later years. There are two things going on that you want to guard against. One is dying too soon, and the other one is living too long, are the concepts we talk about.
Yeah, and I got a quick question here. Can you identify the different types of life insurance, like term life, whole life, and universal life? Can you kind of break those down for our audience, and so they'll
Yeah,
understand?
yeah. Whole life, I've talked about a little bit earlier. Whole life is a situation where a person may go to a company and they give them whole life. Whole life is something that has been sold almost exclusively to all families throughout the country. Whole
Mhm.
life is designed to provide a family with an income protection based upon what I would call it the ability to pay. For example, a whole life policy might be $50,000. Might very rarely do you see them at 100,000 in our neighborhoods. And in
Mm,
that whole life policy, a person is paying an exorbitant amount per month, and it can escalate all the way up until the time that they die. And we think that that is a situation where the insurance company is able to make a lot of money. They enjoy it because they come back, and I'll talk about how they are able and why that's a good product for them because they can make an exorbitant amount of money. You also brought up UILs,
hmm.
and UILs can be very tricky, and you can find them all over TikTok today. But what a UIL is doing is saying, "Hey, don't worry about life. You can buy life insurance, and you can also set aside a portion of your payment for savings." Try to give an example of what I mean by that. Just go back to a family again with $400,000 and say they have to pay. I don't have any exact numbers, so I'm making these numbers up as I go. Say they're paying $300. The
Hmm.
understanding of that might be $250 of that payment is for the insurance, and $50 of that payment is for their savings. However, there's some things that people don't talk about when you get into the UILs. For example, for the first 3 years, the savings amount doesn't go anywhere. You have no savings. That goes directly to the insurance company, masked as a fee, masked as a cost of doing business. And then they, in the UIL world, they say, well, you can borrow against your savings. Well, if you borrow against your savings that is only paying you 1 to 3% return, you have to pay interest on the monies that you borrow up to 8%, somewhere between the eight range of 5 to 8% is what I think you can legally charge. So a
Hmm.
person is paying that money. Then I think the third piece of that, just to get total clarity, is let's just say a person has completed the amount of the investment and the investment amount grew to $100,000.
Hmm.
If someone got dead or if someone died, they don't get both. They don't get the insurance amount and the savings amount. They can only get one. And the insurance company keeps the savings amount of that UIL policy. So that is the crux of the UIL situation. And I don't talk about this in specifics because we would need everybody's policy because everybody's policy could be written different. But what
Right,
I've said in general nature, you could read a policy and you would see exactly what I'm saying. Now,
right.
in some UILs, they're A and B, and the high wealthy type people may do this because they think it's a opportunity to influence some tax planning. But we
Hmm.
don't necessarily agree with that philosophy, but it is out there.
Hmm. And UIL, is that the universal life?
Yes.
And what about term life? Is that just for short term? I don't have nothing. I just get something right now to cover my death benefit, or is that how that works?
Well, term life is what we sell. In term life, we can start a term, we can do a term to fit your need, but normally we would be doing it in increments of 10, 20, 30, 35 years is what a term would be. And a term life policy, at the end of that term, uh, you can either renew that insurance policy, but if you've worked with Primerica, you're prepared with investments never to need insurance again.
Okay, so term life has that term on it. Tell us that, and I just want to expand on that. I want to welcome everybody that's attending, Nicole and Isabel. I forgot to count on y'all, but I want to talk about with that term life insurance. So when we say we extend that term at the end of 10 years, I take it out premium increases based on that.
It's a possibility it could increase, but it's not a guarantee.
It's a possibility. Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. Because I know that. So what happens, and we see this happen now. People thinking about moving to other countries. Maybe people thinking about say, hey, I'm going to go over and I'm going to live in Mexico or I'm going to live in Aruba or something that's cheaper for us to live. My retirement goals. Can I take that insurance plan with me if I move over there, or how does that work?
I do not believe that would be transferable into another country.
Okay.
Uh, that would be something, if you were to ask me that question one on one, I would go research it and try to give you a direct answer. But I do not believe it to be transferable.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, we asked that because we know a lot of folks that
Yes.
they feel that they get a bigger bang for their buck going to the someplace overseas and living, based on that. And of those three types of insurance policy, which one has the best cash value?
When you said the best cash value, be a little bit more clear. Ask me.
Like I can go in there and if I need to pull some money out and use it, would I use whole life or universal life, or can I use term?
You would not use term to pull money out.
Okay.
You probably would be using universal life. But remember, we talked earlier about the danger of that. Your first 1 to 3 years, you don't have any money to pull out, and when
Mm-hmm.
you pull the money out, and say later, if you pulled out $50,000 of that term,
Mm-hmm.
of your cash value, at the time you pull that out, you then have to pay an interest on your own money. Does that make sense to you to pay interest on your own money? And you will have to pay interest at a rate of 5 to 8%. We find that to be egregious and not something that would be in the right uh, direction for a family that's trying to increase their wealth. It does help the insurance company increase its wealth, but it doesn't help that person. And when I talk about that from a perspective of the cash value, we believe that while the insurance company is only paying you, say, on $100,000 cash value, 1 to 3% interest on that money, they are not using that. They're not using those funds. They end up taking your funds. Banks take your funds, and they reinvest those funds in markets that pay 12 to 14% interest, using it for credit card debt, using it to buy car loans. So we think that that's a trick for the person that's paying that money. They're getting a low return, and they're missing out on the fruits of what they were investing that money in a separate investment account. That money would be theirs and theirs completely. Do you think it's right, Johnny, for you to have to pay an interest rate on your own money?
No, no. I mean, I feel a lot of folks who feel and thought that I'm paying myself back at an interest, for it and stuff.
No, but you shouldn't have to pay anybody for your own money. You
Right,
put
right.
that money there, and now you have to pay interest. You borrowed it. You in effect borrowed your own money, and now
Hmm.
you have to pay yourself back. But you're not getting the money yourself. The interest is going directly to the institution that you set up the UIL with, and
Mm,
we just don't think that is correct. What
mm,
we believe when we talk about in investing, buy term and invest the difference. We look at the a formula of how money doubles. Have you heard of, anything about the rule of 72?
Rule 72, yes, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we look at, like, if you're investing your money in a fund that returns only 3% interest, your money only doubles every 24 years.
Mm,
Most people only have a life cycle of 2 times for that amount of money to double. And if you're in your mid 40s, maybe only one cycle. But
mm,
if you were to invest your monies in a fund that paid that 12% interest, your money would double every 6 years. And we think that we need to be working with families to understand the power of compound interest and the rule of 72, so that they're able to put themselves in a better position, because that is exactly what the insurance company is doing with the delta between what they pay you in interest and the interest that they make. They're using their monies for financial options for themselves. Am I
Wow.
making sense? Am I being clear?
Absolutely. That's a lot right there and stuff. And folks, you see the number going across the screen, AV posting 302-563-5663. Reach out, give him a call. Don't give him a call right now. We live and everything. But I mean, feel free to contact him tomorrow. Let him know this is a lot, or just, email him at avposting@gmail.com. It's a lot that like I said, we're probably not going to touch bases. You'll probably need to reach him one-on-one to get the best scenario on there, so you can set up an appointment. But we talk about that insurance and how to invest in it. We talk about how do we make sure that we can build that wealth and that legacy of wealth. We starting to talk about it right now here through this investments, as we talked about. We see a lot of stuff on TikTok and the gram about universal life policies and how to use it and invest in properties and grow your income. But right now we talk to Mr. Poston, and he's giving us some options on investments of how to do it and what we should do. Quick question before I get to something else. How will inflation affect my coverage? I mean, we see the market now is going up and down. We're a little in shaky times. We're trying to stabilize it right now. But how will this affect during these times?
Well, we always looked at investments over a period of time. And when I say over a period of time, if we're talking about uh, getting into the market and working with several funds together, over time, the funds that Primerica uses uh, have a trend that would say that over time you won't be hurt. And I'll give you some examples of if you were to invest, if you were a client, and I'm trying to do this because I'm not able to show a picture, but if you were investing in stock and you were paying $100 for that stock, and say you had 10 shares, you'd have $1,000. If you continue to buy 1,000, if you continue to buy 100 shares, and the market all of a sudden went down, you wouldn't buy. But
Mm-hmm.
if you were in a market where you continued to buy, your value of shares would go up, and when the market returned, your value of investment would have increased exponentially because you bought while the market was on the downside, as opposed when the market was on the high side. So we look at that and we factor that into your risk tolerance, and we would come up with what a person would need.
Mm. So that, yeah, that's good information there for that based on inflation. I know some folks, they get a little scared during this time, seeing the markets a little up and down, it's a little shaky, rates and everything start to move so much that they don't know how to really invest and go from there. But tell me
Well,
some of your recommendations of where should I take that money if I'm getting that like that term life and the other $200 I have available. What does Prime America recommend I set that up in? Wow.
well, we would do it one on one, first of all, and we wouldn't do it kind of like we're doing today. But we would have an investment professional sit in this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and we would first of all make sure that you take care of all the IRA products that are out there today, so that you can have tax deferred investments that you don't have to pay taxes on. And then we would move into products that would not that there would be tax consequence to when you were able to use that money. But we would work with you again based upon your tolerance. We could be aggressive, or we could be average, or we could be middle of the road. But we would not give a recommendation without you working directly with a licensed professional, and that licensed professional providing you with the credible information that I think a client would want.
Mm-hmm. 4 and 7. Yeah, and that's good. So, folks, You heard it there. We need to evaluate where you're at. Where's your investment at? What's your tolerance for it? If you have 200K, where would you invest that in it now? One of our listeners wanted to ask that, AV. Where would we invest that now if we had $200,000? I mean, just as an open
Yeah.
discussion, I got $200,000. I got my life insurance set up for that. But would you tell me that I would be better going to stocks, or what kind of plan would you kind of talk me through, or what kind of questions would you ask me?
Well, if that situation were to exist and the person had that question again, working with a licensed professional,
Hmm.
we would start with kind of a conversation about, you know, we do something called a financial needs analysis, and we try to come up with an amount, an agreed upon amount that you believe that you would need, that you would never have to work again in life if you were to hit that target of income or money saved at a certain time in life. And we would try to work with them to calculate that financial needs analysis to pinpoint what that amount of money would be. And based upon that, we would then work with that particular client that had $200,000 to understand what they were able to contribute in subsequent periods, to understand what they could get from that and what they could get from the growth in the marketplace. But
Hmm.
that type of question is very difficult to answer
Hmm.
without sitting down with a person and going through it with them one on one with a licensed professional.
Right, right, and we know that can be difficult, off of that forward, and when you look at it, but it's kind of common. A lot of folks see that when they're investing. I'm on the real estate side. I put it in the property. That property's never going no place. Where we might have other options,
Mm-hmm.
funds that we can consist of, and sit down and talk about, and kind of see what works best for that. Because in this environment right now, it is, and I said this a whole lot tonight, it's so rocky right now. Can I really trust any of these investments I'm doing right now? Or are they really performing? So my question to you, AV, is how are these investments performing, if you just had to name some of your top 5 or 10 investments doing?
Um, I would tell you that we have funds. If you were to talk about stocks or mutual funds would just be a conglomerate of several different industries. We have funds that are still in the neighborhood of 9% to 12%. But again, those funds would be based upon the choice of that particular individual. Now, I was in a seminar today listening to Fidelity, and one of the leaders there talked about Warren Buffett.
Hmm.
And Warren Buffett, over the past 2 to 3 years, has had an enormous amount of cash sitting idle because he didn't see anything that he wanted to buy. He didn't see anything that was attractive at the prices that were outstanding out there in the current marketplace. But now Warren Buffett is starting to invest because the prices have shifted to where he thinks these things are a good deal. So he's making deals, he's buying in this market because in this market, he's finding it attractive for him to go out and make investments and generate real wins in this marketplace. He's not afraid to go in the marketplace. He just waited until the market adjusted to a price that he thought it was, and then he'll win as the market recapitulates and goes back up into its normal stage.
Yeah, Warren Buffett. He's a great investor. He's a great speaker as well on this financial market. He done did some great things. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
for what we talk about here. I'm taking a financial class at church, and they talk about um, how he very aggressive in his approach to when he really invests and he sees something great in it. He really pushes forward, and
Mm-hmm.
gets it out, and he gets the word out, and he's been successful at it. You have to take it for what it is.
Yeah.
For it. But folks, as you see, avposting at gmail.com. I want y'all to reach out. We need to start talking about our finances, our future, our investments. How do we leave our legacy? What are we doing to perform these legacies for it? Or give them a call at 302-563-5663. And AV, I mean, a quick question, but the ups and downs of the stock market due to the tariffs and tennis ball games, how can we feel comfortable? There isn't the normal ups and downs of the market. How can we feel comfortable in this, AV? I mean, what's your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, and these are my thoughts right now. Uh, my thoughts is that we should be observant,
Mm-hmm.
and we should look at mutual funds and how they've behaved from a historical perspective over the past 10 years. The market has always had ups and downs, but I think now is not the time to say, hey, I'm not going to do anything in a mutual fund or in the stock market. Now's the time to work with a professional and to make sure that you have your direction defined in terms of where you want to go, and you understand what the amount of money you need so that you never have to go back to work again in your life, and work on a strategy that gets you there. But I don't think now is the time to say this is a time not to invest because the market is going up and down every day. We certainly don't have in Washington, D.C., we certainly don't have clarity today to what tomorrow is going to be. But we can look at Warren Buffett and see what he sees and
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, do I want to follow what Buffett's doing, or do I want to stick my head in the sand and say, I'm not going to do anything? I
Mm-hmm.
think that we have to work with professionals, and we have to get ourselves in the direction of where we need to go.
Mm-hmm. As Rita said, insurance is the only steady investment right now, that life insurance for it. So tell us, AV, you said something about mutual funds here and everything. If I have a mutual fund, can I pull money out to invest in real estate, or would that be
Yes,
something I can do?
yes, you could pull money. It's your money. You can pull your money out whenever you want, and you don't have to pay yourself back. There may be some tax uh,
Implication.
implications as a result of what you're doing. But I want to go back to the question about life insurance as being a steady investment. Life insurance, term life insurance, is not an investment. Term
Mm-hmm.
life insurance is to provide you with income protection,
Mm-hmm.
and income protection means that if you today are 40 years old and you die and you have a spouse and you have kids, it's the ability to provide your family with the opportunity to carry on at the lifestyle that they've been accustomed to while you were living.
Mm-hmm.
It is not for to be confused with being an investment. Insurance is providing you with income protection. For example, if you're making $100,000 a year and your spouse is making $100,000 a year, and you spend, I'm going to say, $180,000 a year. If one person dies, something happens. People can lose their mortgage, people lose their homes, they lose that income, kids might not be able to get educated. Life insurance is only income protection to be utilized as a tool to prevent a catastrophe from occurring in your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think, and it's not to be confused with an investment. That's why when you get into the UILs, they bring out this, you have a savings and you have life insurance. Now, we don't advocate in Primerica that you confuse and insurance with an investment. We think those things should be separate, and
Mm-hmm.
that they should be managed separately to be properly protected on the life insurance side, and to make sure you reach your number that you have chosen to be at at the time of your retirement, that you never have to go back to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we was talking about that whole life. So as we talk about whole life, a lot of folks use that as an investment tool. Um, Is that not a good resource you believe to use?
Well, again, whole life by itself, whole life, not universal life, by itself is something that you are just paying, and you will pay until either you die or maybe you become 100. Some companies 120 years old. You're paying uh,
Mm-hmm.
that amount of money. We don't see that as an investment. We see that as what it could be an investment if when you die, it can
Mm-hmm.
be left to maybe as a legacy amount of money or something of that nature. I could see it as an investment of that type. But
Mm-hmm.
we think of an investment as something that you would want to leave in terms of a legacy amount of money, but we also think of it as being a type of money in your investments that will fund your lifestyle in your later years.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a matter of in life insurance, people die too soon or they live too long. And we don't
Mm-hmm.
want people to outlive their income. And we don't believe in Primerica that people should be paying for life insurance for their entire life. Imagine being 90 years old and having to make a life insurance payment of $130 every month.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, if you make that payment, if you miss the payment, what's going to happen? If you're in UIL, they're going to go take the cash value out and make the payment for you. So you're never going to get the full amount of the life insurance when you die. You get that amount minus whatever they've had to go in and take out to make your payment. Also, and if somebody died and say they had consumed say they had a life insurance of 100,000, but they borrowed 40,000, they're only going to get 60,000 as a result of decisions that they've made. We
Mm-hmm.
think those things should be separate and not combined.
Mm. Mm. I think combining of whole life and term to replace income and whole or universal is non-taxable. You can pull it out, no taxes and no subject to market fluctuations. What's your thought on that?
Well, we again, I think every policy is different, but I'll just talk in general terms because I can't talk about
Yeah.
it because I don't see the specifics.
Right,
But
right.
when we say that it's not subjective to market, uh, a whole life might have a 3 or 4% return on it. I mean, a universal life, 3 or 4% return. But the market is doing much better than that. You don't get to win when the market is doing better either.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then until we look at that, I don't know how to respond to the tax issue because, if you are paying yourself back on your interest for what you borrowed, or if you are in a situation where you're only earning a 1 to 3% return, uh, you've cheated yourself out of the possibilities of what you could get, is what I would say.
Mm. So you think you can have a bigger return, but AB, this is a question for you: that what happens if the market's on a downside? Would that 3 or 4% in that whole life be sufficient on a downturn market?
No, no, I would stress again
Mm-hmm.
that we do some analysis and on the downside market because markets are, if you look at the Dow Jones, you can see those fluctuations, those peaks and valleys in a trend chart. You can see those things uh, occurring, but they never stay where they are.
Mm-hmm.
There's always movement, and where you want to be is kind of where is the owner of that UIL company is, because they're not in it to lose, and
Mm-hmm.
they're not in it because the same market that we're in, they're in. They're not
Mm-hmm.
in it to lose. So you kind of have to put your thinking cap on. And I encourage everybody to let's look at the numbers and let's look at the analysis of those numbers and let's understand what we talk about when we say the market is down. Uh, I mean, things came roaring back the past couple of days, but like Warren Buffett, he saw that coming. He started to invest before it came back because he
Mm-hmm.
knew it would come back. Uh, it's not a situation of it's going to always be down,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and certainly it might be down for a day or two, but we don't think that's a cause for people to make radical adjustments. Again, work with a licensed professional, and let's get that right, uh,
Right,
and,
right,
and do
right.
the analysis. Let's don't talk in generalities about that.
Yeah. For folks, AV posting at 302-563-5663, or just hit them at avposting at gmail.com to talk about these situations that we have going on out here. It is so many things that's happening as we're seeing that we need to plan for our future. We need to have some type of resources available. I know a lot of folks were relying on 401ks, 403bs. I don't even know if they have pensions anymore. Some places have pensions, some places done did without, or you have a mixed value of those things. But at some point in time, we got to prepare for our, I call them golden years, or our traveling years, our relaxation days, that we can go out here and be able to still live and have a great time, and keep going on from that, regardless what field you're in, what line of work you're in. I'm gonna just give a shout out to our event coming up, Ford and Rita. We see your comment. 1 second. Our event coming up on May 22nd. For It's going to be a day of housing, and then we're going to have the Military Basketball Association that weekend. Those guys, they're in situations where they're going through the military and they're talking about retirement, but um, we have to take into consideration nothing's promised for us. We have to go out and continue to look for ways to invest to do our future. But if Rita's comment can come back, and it was talking about Warren Buffett here, Warren Buffett and the other obligate deliberately crashed the market to go back in and get the best stocks for cheap. But Rita, I'm all in agreement with that. For that, we had some trickery there. We can't put our hands on it. We can't say that we seen it happen, but stuff didn't happen. Is it just by coincidence, or is it by happenstance where they really got some insiders looking what's happening here and seeing what's going on in this market? Because people lost a whole lot of money this year and during the years of this economy in their 401ks, 403bs. Got real nervous for it. Even our federal workers, state workers, and stuff, that lost their jobs and stuff like that. It's a very hostile time, and it's very scary for a lot of folks out here for it and everything. How you doing, Mr. Dickinson? Good night, for it. But we want to encourage folks, as we see AV posting at gmail.com. We're talking about investing. We're talking about getting to the next step of having that wealth. We're talking about long-term goals here, not short-term here. We're making sure that we're set. As AV said, we shouldn't be paying for life insurance for until we die, for it. And AV, my question for that is, what happens if we just set up save the amount of money to go pre-plan our funeral, and we do away with that insurance? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, again, I'm going to go back to something I've tried to say consistently. Life insurance is kind of like, in your early years, you need a lot of life insurance because you have mortgage, you have debt, you have young children, and you have your income. And the loss of one person in a two-family environment would be devastation. In your later years, you don't need a lot of life insurance because your mortgage should be paid, children have moved on, and you don't have a need for that. So what we try to do, with operating with the premise that whole life charges a lot more than term life, that you could take the same dollars and invest the difference between the cost of whole life versus term life and get yourself in a more solid position. That doesn't mean that you would only invest that difference. We would work with families to even add more to the amount that they were able to save to get to what their financial independence number. The financial independence number, again, is that amount of money that they want to have at age 65, age X, that they never have to go back and work again. I
Mm-hmm.
think there are two people that I would encourage anybody listening to this podcast today to listen to go out into YouTube and look at Susie Ortman or Dave Ramsey
Mm-hmm.
and listen and pull up their videos talking about whole life versus term life. I think they would be saying explicitly the same thing that I'm saying. If you just listen to those two people, they're going to tell you exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they would even, you would be able to see it clearer because I'm not able to use videos. I'm not able to use any charts and graphs here tonight, but they
Mm-hmm.
would show you exactly what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And for it now, we know Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman. They have some good beliefs for us. I think something that stands out that where I like to use a different structure for our younger years from Dave Ramsey when he talks about eliminating debt and cutting up credit cards and stuff like that. I think that hinders us from
Mhm.
financial wealth for it itself. Is it hard to get insurance if you have a pre-existing health condition?
It
Um,
is. It is more difficult, and again, that's a case by case situation. If you're a person that's had some type of cancer, and maybe if it's in remission for 10 years, maybe you can get insurance. But I couldn't guarantee that you would be able to get insurance. Uh, that brings us to the other part of the conversation, though, is
mhm.
we want people to get life insurance when they're young,
Right.
before complications start in their life, because health is certainly a factor in the cost. You can get life insurance if you have certain conditions, but it's going to be rated and you're going to pay more than the normal person would pay. It's best to get life insurance at the age of somewhere between 25, and 30 before these conditions pop up. And people have to understand that the cost of waiting is too severe. You can't wait. And when people invest in life insurance, they have to understand that this is not a decision that they can take lightly
Mhm.
and say it's Christmas and somebody in their family wants a ring or a watch that costs $10,000. And they say, well, I'm not going to make my life insurance payment. And then the payment
Just one time.
lapses. And now, if it lapses, you're faced back with, oh, but I didn't have high blood pressure before, but I got it now. So you put yourself in adverse positions by not taking life insurance seriously.
So question is, I start my policy AV when I'm 20 years old, right?
Hmm.
I probably take it over from my parents because they might have had it so long, and then I start taking over the payments and stuff like that. Um, I turned 40. I got high blood pressure, diabetes, all these things. How does that affect my policy now?
It doesn't affect your policy as long as your policy is in good shape and you've been making your payments. Uh, I believe if you were to try to, and I don't know the exact amount, but if you were to try to increase the policy, say from, I'm making this number up again, 300K to a million, it probably is going to require medical look.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, that medical look, getting on there, urine stuff. Certain jobs come with a higher premium, like firemen and nurses, due to infections. Yes, and
Yes.
that is true for depending on your career, AV. Have you noticed a great difference in premiums with those type of folks in that police, firemen, type of field?
I cannot say that I have personally noticed a difference, but I do
Hmm.
want to talk about another type of life insurance that we haven't talked about,
Hmm.
and that is people who say they have life insurance at work. Uh, that
Oh.
is that is a disaster as well. You have to buy your own life insurance. The disaster part of that is that's only good while you are at work.
Hmm.
If you die and you're at the beach in North Carolina and you live in Philadelphia, you won't get life insurance because you were not at work when you died. That's a concept that people need to understand. and that if you do have life insurance at work, the maximum that I've ever seen people get is 1 to 2 times their salary, and in
Mhm.
most cases that won't present them from having a disaster. It might get you Barrett, but it won't cover the other bills that your family would have to incur.
Mm. And that's common. We see that with a lot of employers. They offer that as a benefit to the customer, and they sell it on the market of it's pre-tax,
Yeah.
so but it's good to have your own, because at one time you might leave the company. What
Yes.
happens then,
If you leave the company, you don't have any recovery. I mean, you may be able to get it, but maybe it's 6 or 7 times what you were paying your company for. But we don't advocate life insurance at work. We advocate buying your own life insurance and you being in control of the protection of your family as opposed to the company. Most people who have life insurance at the company, they can't even, you don't even get a policy. You just get a certificate. It's not your policy, it's the company's policy. And if
hmm
the company's policy is covering all the associates, not just yourself, and the company can make changes to their policy without informing you. The
hmm
insurance company can make changes to the policy. We just find that insurance at work, life insurance at work, is not something that is beneficial to anyone.
Right. For it, just because you don't have control. No federal government is 5 times, and it pays as long as you're employed. So that's good to know. So
That's
the
good. Yeah.
federal governments, yeah, for good luck for those folks looking for hiring right now for
Yeah.
that federal government. We on the outside looking in now. We can't get in, but that's good to know. At least they have something that's almost like the military and everything. As long as you're part of them, you have that. But folks, I want you to take this opportunity. Grab this number, AV Poston, 302-563-5663. Let's talk about, set up a consultation just to have it open here, Rita. So y'all can discuss about your wonderful future, what you're going to invest. Or, if you're shy, you don't like to talk on the phone, send a message to avposton@gmail.com, and send a message at AV. I'm really not good at talking or whatever you're gonna say, and let them know, hey, I want to consult with you for it, and can we set something up so you can feel comfortable. It's an awful situation to get to turn time in your life and you haven't prepared for the future. You have not went and did necessary things to plan if you transition with your bills and stuff, and leaving this stuff to your family members, that really already grieving, but even they're going to grieve even more. Kurt, good to see you tonight too. Great talk. And investments, we always talk about investing, always talk about how we're going to get in the game. But to get in the game, we got to do a couple of things here, and we got to think outside the box, spend that extra money on seeing if we can put some money to the side, whether it's real estate, buying Airbnb, whatever you're going to do. But those investments is so important to you and to have it available for you. And Rob said, at any point, does life insurance have an expiration date on a person as they get older?
Well, in term insurance, there definitely is an expiration date. In whole life, it depends on the company and the policy. We think when a person gets 100, then I think they say, okay, you don't have to pay anymore. In some cases, the age limit is 120
Mm,
before you don't have to pay anymore. But that's certainly too old.
yeah, for it
Uh,
and stuff.
yeah. I mean, uh, but term, there's definitely at the end of the term, it's over.
hmm Folks, we done. I told you this hour's not gonna be long. Y'all gotta reach out to AV Poston to let him know. I want to thank him so much for taking the time to spend some time with us. But write the number down, 302-563-5663. Give him a call or send him an email at avposton@gmail.com. figuring out your financial situation, making sure that you're prepared for the future, to live a long life, enjoy life, and not struggle. Readers, the last question is, what is the minimum investment amount with Prime America? Fisher Financial told me to call them when I had 500K. So, is it a
That's,
minimum amount?
that's
AB?
great. That's a great question. At Primerica, we will take $25, and we can get you the same type of returns that you could get from going to Lincoln Financial. And if you had $500,000 and you went to Lincoln Financial, they'll be happy to show you the funds that will generate a 14% return. But we're able to get those returns because of our distribution system and the number of people that we can take to them. So $25, $50, there's no amount too small. The shame of the game would be is to delay and to wait. I suggest that we start now. And again, when we start, we always look at the financial house. And the financial house starts with, is your income currently protected? And once we do that, we work with you on creating a financial needs analysis, and we put that plan in writing so that we can have that plan available to everybody for review on a semi-annual, quarterly, or annual basis based upon you, so that everybody knows exactly where we stand with that plan. And I think that's an awesome thing that you get from Primerica, but there are no minimums.
Wow. Folks, we done reached the end. AV, man, I appreciate you coming on this evening. Thank you for all the participants. You've seen the number. You've seen the email. Reach out to him anytime we have and go from there from what we have. But until next week, this Creative Financing with JB. We love that you attended. We will see you next Tuesday at 7 o'clock, same time, same station, as we talk and we encourage people to take the next step to financial freedom. Y'all have a great night.